Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. Today we are covering UFC Columbus. UFC is back on the road again. You have to love it. Fans, crowds, the whole entire nine. But we have one of our favorites fighting on the main event tonight, and it is Chris Daukaus, one half of the Daukaus brothers. But he has a tough test on his hands. Arguably the toughest test out of any of the young prospects / contenders that we like on this program, because he's fighting Curtis Razor Blaydes. And if you remember correctly, folks, I know it's a what have you done for me sport recently, but Curtis Blaydes in his entire MMA career has lost to Francis Ngannou twice and Derrick Lewis once. He's destroyed everybody else. So we're going to see what we got this weekend. But folks, let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber, the man who's coming off of a hot 6-0 week, my man. AJ, how are you living, brother?
Ooh, I'm doing very well, Derick, man. Doing good. It is a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you a little earlier, I already got the gym going. So
That's
setting
right.
off on the right foot, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Folks, if you want to have a good start to your day, get like my man AJ. Get the workout in the morning, you know what I'm saying? Eat your Cheerios, get your water in, all the intakes, all that good stuff. Get that taken care of, because I got a little bit of a slower start to the morning, but what's important is I got my cup of Joe ready to go. We got the beautiful Bloody Water Podcast mug that you can find at our merch store, bloodywaterpodcast.com. Go to the merchandise tab and use code BWP10 for 10% off all purchases at checkout. AJ, you gotta love how I just plugged that in there right there. I'm just saying, brother, smooth operator over here. But yeah, little slow start to the morning, but we getting after it, brother. What's important is that we have some bangers of some fights, and I told you a couple weeks ago, AJ, I don't want to miss this card. We have to cover this card. We got names like Chris Daukaus, Joanne Wood, Aleksei Grasso, the return of the Immortal Matt Brown fighting in his hometown of Columbus, Ohio, brother. You have to love it. So let me ask you straight off the bat, when we have some old names that we haven't heard in a while, like the Ilir Latifis, when we have some names like the Sarah McMahons, when we have the, you know what I mean, Jennifer Mayas, the David Dvorak, who actually, believe it or not, I thought he got cut a couple weeks ago. I guess he's still on the roster. When you hear names like that, AJ, what stands out to you with that? Are you like, damn, I can't wait to see these guys back in action? Are you like, it's about time? Where have these dudes been? Like, what goes through your mind with that?
A little bit of that second one, a little bit of like, damn, it's about time, man. I've been waiting to see these dudes fight, because we do the rankings review every week, and I'll go through them and look like, man, I haven't seen a good chunk of these people fighting quite a long time, and it seems like it's always just usual suspects going back at it month after month after month. Which by all means, that's how they got to get it. But it's nice. It's almost refreshing to come in and see. Even fighters who kind of like Daniil Batgerel, like that's still only a name we barely heard of, man. So there's still a lot of new people, a lot of old people coming back. I get excited for fights like this, man. What about you?
No, I absolutely the same thing. And it makes me definitely have the same entire thought process when it comes down to the rankings review. Okay, now is your time to shine. Now is your time to earn why your name is next to this number. Why is it associated with it? Because believe it or not, man, people are up in arms when you hear Marlon Moraes has lost 4 in a row, but he's still got a high number next to his name. Other names like that. I don't want to pick on Marlon Moraes specifically, but there's a couple dudes where it's like, how you still got this number, bro? You know what I mean? Like you've had a little bit of a rough patch. I know you got a big name, but such is life. But AJ, man, speaking of Dana Batgerel, listen, he's 2-0 in the UFC, brother. Young up and comer. We got another good one, Aliaskhab, Khizriev, Luis Saldana. I mean, come on, brother. We got some bangers in here, but let's not forget Neil Magny versus Max Griffin as the featured prelim. Obviously, we're going to touch base on this in 1 second, but let me do a little bit of housekeeping first. Folks, if you can see on the bottom of the screen, if you are watching, 36-18 is my score on the year, 38-16 is AJ's score on the year. I am 66% accuracy. AJ hit the 70+ mark. So, folks, if you're not tuning into our picks, I don't know what you're doing, but get your wager book ready, get your notes out, because we're about to take you out of school real fast. You already dig what time it is. AJ, brother, any last words before we get into this, man? How we feeling about the socials? How we feeling about finding the show on the internet? What are you thinking?
Well, I like what you said there, Derick. Sorry, a little audio cut, but man, that's a good idea right there, Derick. Bust out that app, man. Bust out your little betting odds app, whichever one it is, or your notebook, whatever. Take those notes. Make sure you get it in, because you're tuned into the best MMA breakdown show. I was looking a little earlier. There's some out there, but we got the best right here, because look at those records. Make sure you get your odds in, those little prop bets. Derick's going to cover them. We got them all day right here. I'm excited, man. I like seeing it, because I like the little bit of competitiveness, that we got going on here. Get tuned in because this is going to be a fun matchup as well, man.
Absolutely. And folks, let me just give you one last reminder. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Share the show with your friends, your loved ones, anybody who likes combat sports. When I see people from time to time, they visit me at work, they say whatever, want to follow on the socials, I say, hey man, you know anybody that likes combat sports, tell them to tune into the Bloody Water Podcast, because you know, like I said, this is the best MMA show in the world, on the planet, in the galaxy, whatever you want to call it. BloodyWaterPodcast.com is the home, the hub, where you can find all of the materials you need. You can listen, you can watch, you can buy merch, you can do the whole entire nine. Find us on Instagram at Bloody Water Podcast and on Twitter at Bloody Water Pod. And without any further ado, the infomercial segment of the show is over, folks. Let's talk about a poster review. AJ, my man, we got a little bit of a better one right here this week. For those who are listening, we'll try our best to describe it in its full detail. But for those who are watching, you can clearly see Curtis Blaydes, Chris Daukaus looking like they out of the Matrix or something like that. You know what I mean? Head to head, little diagonal tilt on it, neon green and black. You kind of got to appreciate that they went outside of the box for the traditional norm. But AJ, give me a poster score on this one. How are you feeling about it? Especially because this is your beloved Chris Daukaus right here. They gave him a better poster this time around, brother. What are you thinking?
Yeah, Derick, they hooks my boy up. I appreciate it. I like the fact that they have the graffiti yellow behind, so it looks like both fighters are attacking in on each other. I wish I like this one overall. I gotta say that before I get a little critical on this piece. But I wish they would have thought ahead and thought, we're gonna have Curtis Blaydes flying in from above. Instead of just afterthought thinking, it's probably good him fly above. Let's just copy and paste and cut him up a little bit, little Photoshop. Other than that, man, I think this looks fire. That's like the one critique, and that's just being picky right there. So I'm going like an 8 right here. This is, I think, the highest so far we've had this year. I don't remember if there's a higher, but I like this one a lot. Leave a little room for some play, but this so far is a front runner for me. What about you?
Listen, brother, it's only March, right? We got a long, long year ahead of us, but I like it too. Obviously, folks, if you don't know it, my guy AJ is a little colorblind, so we got the beautiful neon green, not quite yellow there, but the beautiful neon green in the background. Either way, I like how they got it lined up. I like how they're giving Curtis Blaydes the A side, you know what I mean? They're having him up a little bit. He's got a little bit of an advantage. Daukaus is coming off of a loss, so he's going to have to prove himself. Either way, listen, this is solid, man. I'm going to give it a nice 7 on the board for this one. I do feel like they could have incorporated a little bit more, but for the time being, we'll take what we can get. So, folks, that is your poster score for UFC Columbus, a.k.a. UFC Fight Night 205, whatever you want to go with. And without any further ado, I do think it's time we talk about some sleepers. So let's get it, brother.
Time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, folks, and you just heard the golden voice of Bobby King Green introducing us to our sleepers for UFC Columbus. So before we get into the featured sleepers, AJ, let's just talk a little bit about some of the prelims. And the first thing that I want to talk about is Carol Hossa versus Sarah McMahon. You have number 9 versus number 12 respectively. Number 9 for McMahon, number 12 for Carol Hossa. Let us not forget, Sarah McMahon is a Olympic silver medalist wrestler, right? She's an OG. She is an OG of the fight game. She has competed against some of the best to do it. But Carol Hossa is a very, very dangerous kickboxer who has showcased a little bit of grappling herself, man. When she gets down to the ground, she's not stuck there. She's still game. We haven't seen Carol Hossa fight recently because she has had a million cancellations, brother. And a lot of these are not to her own fault. So let me just take a look at it real quick. When I pull up on the Tapology screen and we look at Carol Hossa. So look, we have a canceled bout starting in 2019, Vanessa Mello. We have Jan Finney. She got in a bout against Laura Procopio. Then we have Julia Avila, canceled bout 4 times. Then fight against Vanessa Mello, Sajar Eubanks, Nico Montano, both canceled. Jocelyn Edwards, Sajar Eubanks canceled again. A bunch of cancellations, obviously stalling the career a little bit. But look at all these wins, brother. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-fight win streak. A lot of decisions. 1 knockout win prior to the UFC. I mean, obviously a couple knockout wins prior to that. But the point is, AJ, Carol Hossa is a dangerous woman, and she's getting ready to square up against Sarah McMahon, who is 15-3 or 12-6, in her own right, coming off of a loss to Juliana Pena. So let's talk about it, brother. Who do you like in this matchup? You have a kickboxer versus a grappler. You have an OG veteran who hasn't really won too many fights recently. Her last win came in 2020 against Lena Landsberg. So just give me your take on this bout matchup.
Yeah, man, I like Kara Hossa right off the bat, just intentionally. I like the fact that she was staying busy, even though there were a lot of fights that got scrapped, got pulled for whatever reason, hers or the other ladies, however it unfolded. She was still trying to stay active. All those bout cancellations we were just looking at were in the last like 2 years, man, in the COVID era. So what that tells me though is she's hungry. She's still staying in the fight. So the name kind of rings a little bit more familiarity. But those who've already forgot, man, Sarah McMahon is an absolute beast. That L to Juliana Pena came in the third round, rear naked choke, still a very good fight, very competitive. And against wins like Lena Landsberg, you have a couple other where she's staying grappling. So I really like Sarah McMahon for the fact that she can stay or bringing this fight to another level, get the fight to the ground, do some grappling, put Carol Hossa in some places we haven't really seen her work as well. And she is very efficient on the ground as well. So it's hard to say, but it makes for a very interesting fight, at least for the Carol Hossa fan. And me, I want to see how she does against her, man. If Sarah can come back, get her on the ground, get her uncomfortable in some places, then we can see maybe how she lines up against other potential matches. Or this is a good one for Carol Hossa to come back and win, or not come back, get the win on. And then we see how she matches up with the champ, Juliana Pena. There's a lot of mixes and matches that can go on because of this fight right here, which has me a little excited. Who do you like and why, Derek?
Well, I've been long looking at Carol Hossa as a dark horse of the women's bantamweight division. I think that she's been prone to make some damage. She's been, it's like a reckoning is coming for Carol Hossa, but she hasn't been able to get the mat time in. So this bout is going to prove a lot. If she wins this fight decisively, she enters the top 10. And when you look at the striking discrepancy between these two, you have almost 7-8 significant strikes landed per minute for Hossa and about 2 to 3 for McMahon. Clearly the grappler versus striker matchup. So I'm interested to see how long can Hossa keep the fight on the feet before it hits the mat, because the longer she could stay standing, the more that minus 220 favorite pick for her makes a little more sense. So I like Hossa if this fight can stay on the feet, but if it goes to the ground, man, do not discount Sarah McMahon, because once again, Olympic silver medalist for Sarah McMahon, and she's fought the best to do it, man. So I would not discount her whatsoever, but I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I am leaning towards Carol Hossa at that minus 220. I do like that one. AJ, I'm interested to know about this matchup. You have a top 5 opponent versus a almost number 15 opponent when we're talking about Jennifer Maia versus Manon Fiorot. And when we think about Jennifer Maia, we cannot forget that she just fought for a title against Valentina Shevchenko just a few fights ago. Now, have things been on the highest upward trajectory since then? No, not exactly. But I still think that Jennifer Maia is one of the most dangerous to do it. Her hands have been ever improving. But she just lost a rematch to Katlyn Chookagian, and that didn't really help her case, right? Before that, she got a big decision win against Jessica Ai, excuse me. But now she's fighting the beast, AJ, someone who I have highly touted, somebody who I have talked about for, I feel like weeks, months at this point. When she first came onto the scene, she is fighting out of France, and her name is Manon Fiorot. She has a big win over Mayra Bueno Silva, a big win over Tabitha Ricci, a big win over Victoria Leonardo, where she broke her arm. But AJ, the biggest win to date is that Mayra Bueno Silva fight. The reason why is because, let's be honest, Tabitha Ricci, very small for the division. That wasn't a competitive fight. The Victoria Leonardo, even though she's a fun fighter, not the most experienced, wasn't the biggest win. So when you got that win against Mayra Bueno Silva, it says, okay, we're ready to do something. Now, AJ, my big question to you is, does that warrant? You fought an unranked fighter who was pretty good. Does that warrant top 5? I don't think so. I think she is a game fighter, but I think this might be a little big of a step straight off the bat. Why are they rushing her up to the top? Is the women's flyweight division that shallow? Does Valentina need somebody that bad? What are we talking about here, brother?
Yeah, this isn't just a step, Derek. This is a full-on leaf right here, man, for up to Jennifer Maia, man. Fiorot, as game as she is, I wouldn't necessarily say the win over Mayra Bueno Silva got her where everybody thought, like, damn, this girl needs to be fighting an upper, top 5. This is a giant step, but if there's ever a game opponent, man, it's Fiorot. She fights hard, she fights long, she has power too, and she's kind of starting to feel her flow. What I liked most about her fight against Bueno Silva, you saw her start to utilize her range, man. She's one of those fighters where she's really long, but would sometimes be okay with getting things up in close in the clinch or be able to press things up against the fence. She really needs to stay long, stay snappy with her kicks and her punches, and she's going to do very well. And against a vet who hasn't had the best of times in the recent one, especially struggling against a Katlyn Chookagian with how Katlyn holds her distance, I think this is kind of a good fight, like a good matchup fight for Fiorot coming in if she can perform. Although Jennifer Maia, by all means, she can pull the vet card and just stomp it out, man. Go put the pedal to the or put the foot to the gas pedal and keep Fiorot uncomfortable, full pressure. I think Jennifer Maia does that. She stands a better chance, but I actually like Fiorot in this one. This is one of those ones where matchups kind of make a little bit of sense. You see what I'm talking about, or what do you think?
So I see what you're talking about. I'm a big fan of Manon Fiorot, and if she could utilize the same game plan that Katlyn Chookagian did against Jennifer Maia, I don't see why she can't win this fight. However, the big question I was asking, I'm pretty sure you were asking when she fought Katlyn Chookagian in the rematch was, why isn't she grappling? Why is she trying to box with her? This doesn't make sense. You don't have the reach advantage. You don't have the height advantage. The difference here is Manon Fiorot, even though she is 3 inches taller than her 5'7" to 5'4", she only has a 1 inch reach advantage. It's 65 to 64 inches. Both are orthodox fighters. I think this one should fare a little bit better for Jennifer Maia, who, to be honest, AJ, I think she has the power advantage in this fight. I do not believe Manon Fiorot has the power advantage because when you look at Fiorot, you see a lot of flurries. You see a lot of long combinations. You see a lot of accumulative damage. Jennifer Maia can stiff you with one of them, man. She got the pop in her shot. Her striking is just a little less refined, and it's really the grappling where you want to take advantage of if you are Jennifer Maia. So you have to think about it like this. This is the way that I think about it when I'm looking at these fighters. I say, okay, well, at the end of the day, you're 2-3 in your last 5. Your losses are to Katlyn Chookagian ×2 and Valentina Shevchenko. Your 2 wins are a submission win against Joanne Wood and a decision win against Jessica I. I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep calling you Jennifer. But aside from that, wins over Alexis Davis, wins over Roxanne Modafferi, 2 wins over Roxanne Modafferi, pretty important. Win over Vanessa Porto. I mean, she got some good wins on her belt, but I do think that at the end of the day, Manon Fiorot is I think she's a real live dog. So let's take a look at the odds. Is she even a dog in this fight? Manon Fiorot is this can't be right. Is this right? Oh my Lord, this is right. She is a -400 favorite to win this fight, AJ. Jennifer Maia is a live dog. I take it back, folks. If this fight gets to the ground, even though Manon Fiorot is good on the ground, she has some power in terms of her top control, in terms of her hips, good sprawls. But if this gets to the ground, I just don't see why Jennifer Maia can't have her way with Manon Fiorot. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm just too much of a fan of the striker Manon Fiorot. But at the end of the day, AJ, this is like discount odds on Jennifer Maia because she's on a little bit of a rough streak. What do you think here?
That is a crazy live dog right there. I was actually expecting the same as you, Derick. I was expecting Fiorot to be the underdog, kind of coming in, not really tested. So we see Jennifer Maia, because you list off that hit list that Maia has. That's a killer's row right there. I see some serious value. You better put some money down on Jennifer Maia, man, because that is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens here, but I do think that they are giving respect to Manon Fiorot for a reason, brother. It's not like she's sitting out here and just not putting on impressive performances. She's putting on very impressive performances. I just think the caliber of opposition that she's fighting isn't quite up to par with the Jennifer Maia, who, once again, she won a round against Valentina Shevchenko. And even though it's just a round, you can't go crazy over winning a round. I mean, that's winning one round against the best woman fighter in the world, aside from Amanda Nunes, is pretty damn impressive. You know what I'm saying? And that's probably higher caliber than any round one or any impressive fashion Manon Fiorot has put on thus far. So either way, folks, we will talk about this at a later date, but we'll see what happens after the fights. Jennifer Maia is a live dog. If you do not throw at least a little bit of money on there, you're just missing out on a smash spot here, even though I do think Fiorot has a shot. But let's just give a pick on that one real fast. Who are you leaning toward? You don't even got to give me a real pick. Who are you leaning towards in this fight?
Oh, man, I'm still leaning toward Fiorot on that one, but at that -400, man, it's there's definitely like some value for sure. But I'm still leaning Fiorot. What about you?
I'm leaning Fiorot, but I like Jennifer Maia with the smash spot live dog odds, man. I think if it gets to the ground, things could get ugly real quick. All right, AJ, let's talk about Neil Magny versus Max Griffin. Now, even though this is a fun fight on paper, I'm in the camp that says people do not give Neil Magny the respect that he deserves. Neil Magny can beat anybody on this roster right now when it comes to his division, in the welterweight division. He's 6'3", 80-inch reach, and I don't know what tools Max Griffin has to get on the inside of Neil Magny and really put it to him. Because if you look at Neil Magny and if you look at what he's done as of late, it's almost unfair, brother. So we have what? We have win over Jeff Neal. Yes, he lost to Michael Chiesa where he got ragdolled with the wrestling. wrestling and whatnot. But you have a win over Robbie Lawler, win over Anthony Rocco Martin, Li Jing Liang. I mean, Carlos Condit, brother. Come on, Johnny Hendricks, Hector Lombard. Like, Neil Magny is the real deal. And Max Griffin, on the other hand, even though he is a very impressive fighter in his own right, 18-8, 3-fight win streak, he just not only beat Carlos Condit in his last fight, but he actually dropped Carlos Condit, which rarely happens. A win over Song Kanan, win over Ramiz Brahimaj, but then he got losses to Cowboy Oliveira, Alex Morono, Thiago Alves, Curtis Millender, Elizu Zaleski, right? Even though he got that win over Imadav in between. Aside from rattling off statistics and rattling off of names and things of that nature, man, what can Neil Magny do, or what can Max Griffin, do to mitigate the long reach and the length and the constant pressure of a Neil Magny? Because I'm just a little confused. Even though I'm a big fan of Max Payne Griffin, I just think stylistically this leans Magny all day. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with you. As much as I like Max Griffin, man, I think the only real thing he has going for him is that power. Neil Magny's a real legit, very top-tier elite athlete in this one, man. He has the reach. He has the skills. I think he has more of a toolbox than we're going to see Max Griffin, but Max Griffin has that one intangible, that death touch that we can see, man. If you remember and you go back and watch that Ramiz Brahimaj fight, watch that elbow injury, or the ear injury. That is one of the most devastating power shots you can see the actual result from, man. Very, very devastating power that Max Griffin has. So I think if there's anything he can do, maybe slip in underneath, land a big shot, get Neil Magny kind of falling backwards on balance, something like that, to where he's able to change the pace, get Neil Magny thinking. Because other than that, man, I think this is a very rough stylistic matchup for Max Griffin coming up, man. This is going to be a hard one. I'm in the same camp with you, Derick. I think Neil Magny doesn't get the respect he deserves, and depending on the fight, how this fight goes, it maybe we see a little bit of pushback or he has to overcome something. But I think we need to see a very stylistic, or what's the word I'm trying to find, like a show-stopping performance out here for Neil Magny to kind of get him the respect he deserves. Because Max Griffin is, as much as he is still almost undiscovered in the casuals, he's very, very talented and has the potential to make this one a dogfight. What do you think?
I agree. This needs to be a showcase bout for Neil Magny. Arguably, this is one of his lesser pieces of opposition as of late, and that's no disrespect to Max Griffin. That's just how much of a killer's row they've given to Neil Magny. I think that this is the time for Neil Magny to reclaim that win streak, get back on the horse. Because after he lost to Chiesa, a lot of people were wondering, like, yo, either Chiesa is really good or what happened to Neil Magny. So I think he's back on the hot streak. I like Magny clearly in this fight, but I do not anticipate this being a one-sided bout. I do think Max Griffin is going to be game, make it a little competitive. Would you agree with me there?
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Neil Magny in this fight as well, but if there's ever a fighter to make this one a dogfight, it's Max Griffin.
Absolutely, absolutely. And folks, we're going to talk about one more before we get into the featured sleepers. David Dvorak versus Matheus Nicolau. And Matheus Nicolau, obviously, he really stormed back onto the scene when he fought Manel Kape and upset Manel Kape when everybody thought Manel Kape was going to be the next big thing. Former Rising champ coming in. Oh, he's going to come one fight. He gets a title fight, all that good stuff, right? He dethrones him with a split decision win, gets a win over the awkward Tim Elliott next, and now he's sitting here with a great opportunity against a man who has won 16 fights in a row, David Dvorak. The reason why I thought he got cut recently, folks, is because if you're listening earlier, I follow like the UFC roster watch, and every time that they tweet, it gives me an update, and they're always like removed from the roster, updated, put on the roster, and I'm almost positive they did say that David Dvorak did get cut, and it made me wonder, well, what exactly did the man get cut for? He's on a 16-fight win streak for goodness sake, but what it comes down to is you got to be exciting. You have to finish fights. And aside from his last fight against Juan Camilo Honderos with their first-round rear naked choke, there's been a couple decision wins. You know what I mean? Nothing too crazy. He only has 3 fights in the UFC. So either way, this is going to be an interesting bout. David Dvorak, Matheus Nicolau. 2 great grapplers, 2 dudes who got some technical fundamental striking. This is very even to me when I look at it. Now, I have to look at the odds to really get the true assessment to say, like, okay, well, what exactly are we looking at? So, AJ, I know you feel this way sometimes too, where you say, I'm going to look at a bout, I'm going to assess it stylistically, I'm going to look at the matchups, I'm going to watch the film and see how I interpret it. And it's so even. Now, my last resort, let's take a look at the odds and see what they are. So when I look at the odds right now, plus 120 is Matheus Nicolau, minus 140 is David Dvorak. I mean, The Undertaker is no joke in Dvorak, but I do think that I probably would have had it flipped or even just you know what I mean, just a little bit more, because I do think that Madus Nicolau is a very dangerous man. Yes, his striking defense can get a little wacky from time to time, but even though he's not as technical as David Dvorak, I think he has a wider array of strikes from top to bottom, legs, body, head, where Dvorak will be a little more fundamental with his boxing. And when it comes to the grappling, I'm pretty positive Nicolau is a black belt. David Dvorak, I do not know the status of his jiu-jitsu currently, but I would not argue that he would be a legitimate grappler. What do you think about this matchup right here, brother?
Yeah, before you ran out those odds, that's the way I had it, man. I thought Matheus Nicolau was going to be the favorite coming in here. I expected that, but I can see why they have Dvorak listed as a favorite, because this one's a very close fight. I agree with you. I think Matheus Nicolau has the more varied attack. He can go to the body and go to the head. He can use his legs. He can get things going. He's talented on the ground, also very talented on the feet. And Dvorak, the boxing is super crisp, super, super crisp, but tends to be a little bit more of a boring, not necessarily boring fighter. I hate using that word. He's more of a technical fighter, which makes his opposition not look as good. So he kind of runs away with it, leading the casuals to feel a little bit more on the boring side. Not a bad thing that he's being that good. It's just not as exciting when it's, not a dogfight and whatnot. So for that, I mean, it makes sense, but that's why I was liking Matheus Nicolau a little bit more in this one. He kind of he allows himself to be more in the situations where he's a little bit more in danger, if that makes sense. Sure. So that's kind of where I think the media is thinking, that's why he might not be the favorite in this fight, but it makes for an exciting fight. I'm still leaning a little bit more towards Nicolau. What about you?
I'm leaning towards Nicolau a little bit, but you cannot underwrite the 16-fight win streak of David Dvorak. The man knows how to win fights, and that's what it comes down to. So I think it should be a fun matchup either way. I don't even really have a lean necessarily. It's like Nicolau's who I'm leaning towards, but I don't have like a heavy lean where I'm like, this is definitive. This for me, folks, just to give you a heads up, this is a stay away for me. I'm not betting on this fight just because it is so close. Anything can happen. I just want to watch a good scrap. So we'll just say that. And now, AJ, let's talk about some featured sleepers, brother. So that is the Prelim Pourover right there. Now we got to talk about some dudes with some foreign names, but with some legit skills right here. Aliaskhab Khizriev. This is a man who we've been long awaiting his UFC debut. I've made him my sleeper multiple times. His bouts have fallen out multiple times. But the last time we saw him was on the Contender Series, man. And this dude, his nickname is like the Eagle or the Dark Eagle or something crazy like that, because he's a force to be reckoned with. But AJ, my man, I'm gonna let you take the floor. Who is he fighting? Go break out the pronunciation book on this one, brother. Who do we got?
I got to apologize in advance because every time I heard this name in Russian, it sounded beautiful. You guys said it correct, but I know we're going to butcher it. Denis Tiuliulin is how I'm going with it. But Denis T, just so we don't butcher it too much, is an absolute savage, man. You're right, Derick. There's the name right there. Tiuliulin. I don't even want to try it in Russian because you guys have it spoken perfectly. But, man, this dude steps in off of 2 weeks' notice, and it's an absolute savage in the ring. He's very much a finisher of a fighter. Going to be a lot of fun. Going to bring the heat. Has only gone the distance. What's nice about him, he's a finisher of a fighter, but he has gone the distance 3 times, won 2 of those, lost 1. So he has the potential to do that, but he likes to come out fast, hunt those KOs. Gonna put the I forget Khizriev's nickname. You're right. It's the dark something.
It's the Black Wolf, brother. The Black Wolf.
The Black Wolf. There we go. He's gonna put the Black Wolf to the test. But Khizriev, man, this dude, we've been expecting him. Like Derick said, we made him a sleeper a couple times because this dude's the real deal. In 2020 and 2021, he was being heralded as the next Khabib. Anybody coming out of Russia that has the same cut. Everybody thinks, oh, he's Khabib. But this dude, he has that exact same smash style. He's in it for the ground and pound. He's in it for the smash. He's not – or every attack he's looking on the feet. He's looking to set up the ground game attack. This dude is one of those ones where there's a very similar link right there. A little bit more polished on the hands than Khabib when he came into the UFC, but only better things, man. Very much a smash style. Had last 4 of his fights canceled since his Contender Series debut, so I'm excited to see if he stayed the same, where the impact is gone, if a little bit of rust has came in, the mental game's still strong, not as much pressure on him now since he's kind of fallen off the media attention. So we're going to see more of a fighter come out of Khizriev. This is going to be a fight. This is going to be a very fun scrap. And it leads for a big spot for Tiuliulin. Tiuliulin, however you say it, and a potential for Khizriev to kind of get back on track, man. This is a good fight coming up with a lot of potential in the 185 for future classes. I'm excited for this one. What do you think, Derick?
I'm really excited for this one. I do think that this is going to get the momentum back on Khizriev's side if he has a good performance, man. But you cannot. I mean, they brought in this dude, Denis T, is what I'm going to refer to him as. They brought in Denis T for a reason, brother. Obviously, as you noted, he is taking this bout on short notice to replace another dude who's got a funky name that, listen, in Russian, beautiful, you gotta love it, but as Americans, we have a little hard time pronouncing it. Abusupian Magomedov, another Magomedov. You don't want to mess with these dudes, right? So he's replacing this man who Khizriev was supposed to fight originally, but Denis T is an accomplished fighter in his own right, man. 8 of his 10 wins are via knockout, but my thing to note is that he has been finished 3 times, brother. 1 knockout and 2 submissions, so that's something you have to take into consideration. 6 of the man's 8 knockouts have come in the first round, though, so that matches Khizriev in a little bit because 7 of Khizriev's 8 finishes have also come in the first round, so you got 2 dudes who want to get you out of there real quick. I have a feeling that this is going to get past round 1, maybe round 2 if we're lucky, you know what I'm saying? But either way, this is the big caveat that I have for Khizriev. This dude is fighting at 185 pounds. Denis T, as you could see, folks, when we pull up the Topology photo, he's looking stacked, jacked the whole 9, my man, looking like an action figure over here, right? Khizriev historically has fought at 170 pounds throughout his career. He had 1 contracted fight at 155 pounds as well. So to see that he comes on the Contender Series, fights at 185, takes his first fight in the UFC at 185, makes me think one of 2 things. Either he could not find a fight at 170 pounds, so he just said, fuck it, I want to fight. Give me a fight, 185, whatever, we'll do it. Or he says, I can't make the weight anymore. I want a new challenge. I don't know. But what do you make of that before we move on to the next sleeper, AJ? What do you make of him deciding we're just going to move up a weight class? Because Paddy Pimblett's kind of done the same thing, where he's really like a 145er, but he comes in and he says, fuck it, I'll do 155. Let's do it. I don't want to cut as much weight. What do you think?
I kind of like it. I mean, it's a little bit riskier because everybody obviously is doing the legal cheating, so they're going to be coming in as the bigger guy. But if you're already, that coming in, that you train for that, you train it up a little bit. I think it's a good idea. You're a little bit heavier on the chin, if that makes sense. But I mean, it's always risky going in there fighting a big guy with the style that Khizriev has of the ground game smash attack, and that bigger guy outweighs you and pins you down. Then it's a little more rougher. So it's interesting. It's an interesting tactic. We'll see how it pays off.
Yeah, we will definitely see how it pays off, folks. Also, one last thing to note, man, you do have Russia versus Russia. So I have been noting sometimes the UFC will stay away from the Brazil versus Brazil, Russia versus Russia. Obviously, America versus America, that doesn't count because this is an American-based promotion. But I did think that was something interesting because we have so many really, really good Russian athletes on the roster right now in the UFC. I think that there is a little bit of what you can call a Russian fatigue. A lot of people are sitting here saying like, dude, another Russian, another dude smashing everybody. Like, come on, but that just means everyone else got to step their game up. So, folks, definitely tune in. I've made Khizriev a sleeper before. AJ just made him a sleeper today. That means you need to tune in. Obviously, we're making him a sleeper for a reason, but I have another fight right here. And we mentioned one of these dudes a little bit earlier, man, but this is going to be such a fun fight. So, folks, I have Chris Gutierrez, El Guapo, fighting Danaa Batgerel. And, folks, if you do not know about these 2 fighters, you are missing out. Either you don't watch the promotion, you don't watch none of this stuff, but at the end of the day, this is going to be a fun fight. So, Chris Gutierrez, listen, man, he's 8-1-1 in his last 10 fights. He has 3 finishes in those 8 wins, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. But 2 of his 3 career losses, this is very important, 2 of his 3 career losses are against top-notch opposition. And if I threw these names out to you, I can almost guarantee nobody would see this coming. So those 2 losses that Chris Gutierrez has faced in those 3 major ones, Timur Valiev and Raoni Barcelos. What are the odds that Valiev and Barcelos just recently fought each other? What are the odds that Valiev just fought Jack Shore in what should have been a fight of the night, but it was such a crazy card, they didn't get the $50K bonus? What are the odds that Chris El Guapo Gutierrez, who is not the biggest commodity in the UFC, has whooped everybody's ass except these guys, you know what I'm saying? So this is a big talking point that I have because when he's fighting an up-and-comer, a dude who's 2-0 in the UFC, in Danaa Batgerel, he's also fighting a mean finisher, a man who has finished his last 9 fights. He's only lost twice in his career. Both of those fights have gone via decision, so it's something to take note. And he's only seen the 3rd round 4 times in his career. So Topology notes that Danaa Batgerel has 7 first-round finishes on his record. Another quick finisher versus a dude who is primarily known for one thing, AJ. If you knew Chris Gutierrez for one thing, El Guapo for one attack, what do you think that attack is? I'm testing your knowledge on this one, AJ.
Ooh, Chris Gutierrez, man. Yeah, I know he has some vicious kicks.
That's it right there. That's it. Call it. That's the kicks, brother. The leg kicks is the story of the night for Chris Gutierrez. The man actually just got a leg kick finish just a couple fights back. I think it was against Vince Morales. He got the leg kick finish, so that's something you can always take into consideration. But what is Danaa Bakary going to force this man to do? Be a mixed martial artist. This ain't kickboxing. This ain't boxing. You better do everything because Danaa Bakary could take you down. He doesn't really take anybody down. He just manages to get on the floor, get into a submission situation, crazy scrambles and all that. But you have that, man. You have the well-rounded mixed martial artist and Danaa Bakary. He has a 3-inch reach advantage. He's a little shorter, 5'7" to 5'9". But Chris Gutierrez has those kicks. You have to watch out. You might get taken down. But it's like the mean offensive approach of a kickboxer, a mean striker, a dude who knows how to win in Chris Gutierrez versus a dude who can just do it all in Danaa Bakary, a dude who I think is going to be the future of the bantamweight division. But it's hard to say that because I feel like we say that about every other fighter because bantamweight is that stacked. So, folks, clearly I'm hyped up for this fight. Clearly I think this is going to be a fun matchup. I would not have made this my featured sleeper if I didn't think fireworks were going to be produced from it. But at the end of the day, I do think it is important that you watch out for this fight. I don't know what else to say aside from that. But AJ, you got any words on Gutierrez versus Danaa Bakary? I mean, listen, look at how beautiful those words roll off the tongue right there, my man. It's a little easier than Khizriev, Bakary. But brother, talk to me. What do you think?
It's a lot easier than Tiuliulin or whatever the hell I was saying, brother. Yeah, no, this is gonna be a very fun fight, man. If what I was gonna go with, if not the kicks for Chris Gutierrez, I was gonna go with the meanness and the veracity he possesses. Because, like you said, in order to get a finish off of leg kicks, you got to be a mean motherfucker in there smashing down on some kicks. And Chris Gutierrez is exactly that. He might not come off of it because the lighter weight class don't always look scary, but this dude hits very, very hard. And Danaa Bakary, dude, this dude's coming from Jackson Wink, so he already has that crazy mentality. He's going to be, tested in the ring. This dude is very much a future of the bantamweight division. I'm excited to see what this is. This is a banger, man. We've brought these dudes up. We've seen them fight a little bit, so I stayed away from it from the sleeper, but I'm glad you made it a sleeper because this one's going to be fireworks, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You better tune in, folks. Absolutely.
Tune in. The last mention that I want to just give in terms of a fun bout, and we're not going to break it down, but just it's the first night of the fight, or first fight of the night, Tune in. Luis Saldana versus Bruno Souza. That's all I got to say. We're not going to break this one down because we need to move on to the main event, or the main card, but either way, once again, folks, if you're not tuning in, you're missing out. Watch the prelims. You know what time it is. So, folks, I'm going to give you one last reminder. Drop a like, subscribe, tune in to us on the YouTube channel, Free Thinkers Club or Bloody Water Podcast. Either one that you type in will take you to the home, the hub, all the good stuff, man. So, we really do appreciate when you subscribe, when you like, and all that good stuff. But the biggest thing that we're really trying to vouch for, once again, rate us 5 stars, Spotify, Apple Podcast. That really helps people get a little bit more of a visual of the podcast. It helps in ways that you might not even understand, folks. So please just do it. If you don't, it is what it is. If you do, we appreciate you. We love you. All support. We're almost at 355, almost 360 subscribers. So keep showing love, man. We're doing this each and every week. Regardless of the obligations we have in life, we make time to make the show happen. So with that being said, I think it's time that we move into the main event. Let's talk about the main card, all that good stuff. Let's rock.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, folks, we have 6 bouts that we need to break down for the main card. Clearly, every one of these bouts counts on our record. We're pretty close to tied up right now. AJ got 2 wins ahead of me right now in the grand scheme of things for the year, so every pick counts. And I think we might be going against the grain for a couple of fights this week. So let's start it off with the main event, brother. Curtis Razor Blaydes versus Chris Daukaus, number 4 versus number 8. Now, Chris Daukaus, this is his second top 5 opponent in a row, even though he came off a pretty devastating loss to Derrick Lewis, knockout in the first round. He comes in as a plus 300 underdog with a minus 380 comeback for Curtis Blaydes. The over and under on this fight, AJ, appears to be 1.5 rounds. So for whatever reason, the odds makers think that either someone's getting knocked out with the quickness or someone's getting ground and pound finished with the quickness. We have seen as of late, Curtis Razor Blaydes has not been the biggest finisher necessarily. He has a decision win against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He needed that UFC 266. That was a very important win. Decision win against Alexander Volkov. He did finish Shamil Abdurakhimov and Junior Dos Santos, but another decision win against Justin Willis. Clearly, he knows how to knock people out, but he also does not mind grinding it out to a mean decision win where he's just laying on top of you and punching your face in until you're willing to submit. And if you're not willing to submit, then you get in 30-26, 30-25, whatever the case may be. This is 5 rounds though, brother. So let's talk about it. What does Chris Daukaus need to do to make this fight incredibly competitive? And will he utilize that jiu-jitsu black belt that he currently has, one half of the Daukaus brother duo? What do you think?
That's what I was gonna say, man. That we'll see if that jiu-jitsu really comes out. Cause we know Curtis Blaydes, the ultimate litmus test in the heavyweight division. This dude's gonna put it to you. He's gonna get to your hips. He's gonna lock those hands up, and he's gonna be dumping you left to right, everywhere. If you let him get to those hips, man. If you can stay away, either maintain range or invite him in, stay busy in your guard, which very rarely happens. Let's be real. Usually it's position over submission in the UFC game. But if you can get there, you can scramble around, you can get on his back, put the weight of Chris Daukaus on top of Curtis Blaydes, get him in an unfamiliar territory. I mean, it's going to be very hard to do with how talented Blaydes is on the ground. But if that can happen, man, then we're going to see some things be shaken up. That plus 300, I'm kind of shocked. I know it's a sport of what have you done for me lately? And lately, Chris Daukaus got absolutely destroyed by Derrick Lewis, but at the same point, so did Curtis Blaydes. So they both have that knockout loss to Derrick Lewis kind of looming in their memory. It's going to be who's puts in their own game plan to work. And I think Chris Daukaus has a little bit more tools where he can pull from. I mean, I know the wrestling and the attack and the relentless pressure that Curtis Blaydes has, especially over 5 rounds, is going to be a very hard tackle or a very hard hill to climb. But Curtis Blaydes has the stuff to be able to get it done, man. He has the striking, he has the jiu-jitsu. If he can actually get in and make it his style of fight, then I think he's going to have a better time. But if Chris Blaydes gets it rolling, he's one of those downhill fighters where if he gets going, he's very hard to stop. I said before, the ultimate litmus test, but he really is the ultimate litmus test in the heavyweight division. If you want to be fighting the elites, you need to go through Curtis Blaydes, and I'm glad to see my boy Chris Daukaus coming in and fighting the elites now. Kind of still, even though he lost that one to Derrick Lewis, he's still at the top of the range, and I'm excited to see where they put him in after this win, if he's able to get this win. If not, Curtis Blaydes kind of right back to where he is. What do you think?
Well, I do need to push back a little bit, man, because you both said they both got destroyed by Derrick Lewis, which is true, but let's add a little context in there. Curtis Blaydes was beating Derrick Lewis until he lost. Chris Daukaus was not winning not 1 second of that fight. Lewis put it on him from start to finish. The difference is Curtis Blaydes, his stand-up is a little wonky, a little tight, you know what I mean? A little not too technical. We know he's willing to take some damage in order to get in on that double leg, and once he gets you on the mat, it's going to be a long night. Now, one thing that I wanted to kind of put in as a disclaimer is when you look at their most recent weigh-ins, you have 261 pounds for Curtis Blaydes, 235 for Chris Daukaus. So if he's going to continue to fight at heavyweight, being an undersized heavyweight and utilize that speed and movement, you just got to hope you don't get taken down. Because even if you are a jiu-jitsu black belt, 30 pounds is, when you know how to use it like Curtis Blaydes, that's not a little bit of weight right there. So I do think it will be interesting. But listen, man, Chris Daukaus, he's finished 11 of his 12 fights, man. He's an absolute finisher through and through. Curtis Blaydes willing to get the decision. If this fight does go 5 rounds, who do you give an edge to?
Ooh, if this goes 5 rounds, to be honest, I kind of give it to Curtis Blaydes.
Yeah.
Because at that point, that means Daukaus hasn't stopped him yet, and he's probably getting taken down a lot, and those takedowns count, and they really start grinding on that gas tank. What about you?
Curtis Blaydes all day. The man averages almost 7 takedowns landed per 15 minutes, my man. That's 15 minutes. So give him 25 minutes and who knows what the man will do. I do think he is the absolute upper echelon of the heavyweight division. I do think he is the bona fide number 3 heavyweight in the world, even though, Stipe belongs up there, but we haven't seen him in so long now. And now you just got to wonder, okay, we're just going to drop you out for inactivity a little bit. But it literally goes Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, Curtis Blaydes, and even though Derrick Lewis already beat Curtis Blaydes, I do think that overall beating all of the heavyweights, Curtis Blaydes is a tougher test than Derrick Lewis because of the grappling. So it's like when you're talking about a dude who can wrestle, man, you're talking about Curtis Blaydes. There's nobody else that you're going to talk about in the heavyweight division. Chris Daukaus, even though this is a smash spot for Curtis Blaydes, seemingly on paper, I do think Chris Daukaus has a absolute puncher's chance to avoid the takedown and to get Curtis Blaydes out of there with the quickness, my man. His hand speed is impeccable. His movement is ridiculous. But is he the Tom Aspinall-esque when it comes down to the grappling as well with the striking? That's yet to be seen. We just haven't seen it from Chris Daukaus, so hopefully we get to see something we haven't this weekend at UFC Columbus. But are you throwing some money on Chris Daukaus, brother, or are you just going chalky and rolling with Curtis Blaydes? Like, what are we talking here?
Man, I'm throwing money all day on the Daukaus boys. We haven't
sheesh.
seen Chris get it done on the jiu-jitsu, but we have seen his younger brother Kyle get it done. And therefore, I'm going off of the fact that the families practice together.
Yeah.
Maybe we get to see some of that Daukaus skill come out. But brother, I'm rolling Daukaus, and I agree with the odds makers. I'm taking the under. I'm going early round 2 KO. I think he's going to get it done. He has the hand speed, he has the power, he has the quickness, and he has that fast twitch, which that gives a lot of wrestlers a little bit of that trouble. So that's where I'm rocking. What about you?
I do think that Chris Daukaus will be able to give Curtis Blaydes some problems on the feet. I think that herky-jerky style of Curtis Blaydes is going to leave for some openings. A little too tight when he's striking, you know what I mean? Not relaxed. And if Chris Daukaus could flow and do his thing, I wouldn't be surprised to see a first-round knockout straight off the bat. But I did want to mention one thing before I give my pick. Even though they both have similar wins, both have beat Aleksei, Oleinik, both have beat Shamil Abdurakhimov. Both of them finished Abdurakhimov in the second round, so that's impressive as well. But let's talk about Curtis Blaydes. He has wins over Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Alexander Volkov, Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem, Mark Hunt. Come on, brother. I mean, the hit list is insane. I just think that when you lose in devastating fashion, people forget about how good you are. So for that reason, I'm rolling Curtis Blaydes, and I'm actually going to a late round TKO. So give me a third or fourth round TKO, ground and pound style, brother. When Curtis Blaydes is smothering on top of you, there's only so much you can do. So all love for Chris Daukaus. Obviously, we know that. We're big fans of the man on this program, but I cannot put my bias and my fandom in front of my pick because I'm trying to beat you, brother. So let's go. I'm picking Curtis Blaydes. We're going chalky this one. That is your main event right there, folks. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, we get a little bit of a surprise, but I'm going Blaydes. He's going Daukaus. I'm taking the over. He's taking the under. Easy money. Co-main event. Now, this is going to be a fun one, brother. Number 7th ranked Joanne Wood versus number 11th ranked Aleksei Grasso. Now, what's important to note here, AJ, is that Aleksei Grasso is 2-0 since moving up to flyweight. She was 3-3 when she was fighting at strawweight. So clearly, maybe the speed was giving her some issues, maybe just cutting down to a lower weight. Maybe she feels healthier, happier, stronger at 125. But she's fighting a veteran right here in Joanne Wood. And the problem that I have in this matchup, AJ, is that Joanne Wood, I do think, even though she's had a rough patch right here in her last 5 fights, I think she's like 2-3 in her last 5 or something like that. She's more of a name than she is a see, I don't even want to be rude right here. She's number 7 for a reason, brother, but I do think her name is more popular than where she should currently be. Like, should she be fighting the Aleksei Grassos right now? I'm not sure. What is your take on this matchup, man? Who are you giving an edge to? Because the odds makers see the minus 220 in favor of Aleksei Grasso. Boxing is impeccable right there. The boxing is very crispy, but Joanne Wood did get outpointed by a Lauren Murphy recently. And even though Lauren Murphy is legit, I mean, come on, brother, what are we talking about here? So give me your take on this.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and without being rude or judgmental,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about with the Joanne Wood. She's more of a name than a performer.
Yeah.
Like, she used to really be scrapping and get things down, and we see a lot of these wins coming, but then a lot of them started to turn into split decisions, getting outpointed by Lauren Murphy, the rear naked choke by Tyler Santos, and it's just Tyler Santos is an absolute killer. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Joanne Wood went from a division to another division in her last fight. I forget if it's up or if it's down, but against that Tyler Santos fight, it was her first one there. So it was more of a training one. I forget if it's in the flyweight or which division it is, but if this is her second fight in the flyweight division, I think she's going to be heralded a little bit better. I think she's going to do a little bit better, feeling that weight, feeling a little bit more natural. Done it one time, hit me with it.
So, brother, she is a career flyweight, brother. Like, no step up. Nope. She's been flyweight.
It might have been the wedding change. So, but maybe not. I forget there was something for that. Take it away. Either way, there was something going on with that Tyler Santos fight that made her a little bit. I forget what it was.
I'll just say this: it was a short notice replacement. She was supposed to fight Aleksei Grasso, and then Santos came in at the last moment and basically, choked her out. That was it. The only other thing was, the name change. She went from Calderwood to Wood, but she's been a flyweight, man. She's been doing this for a long time, 7-7 in the UFC. So, that's the take on that. But continue, brother.
Correction. I don't know where I thought that, but either way, I still think the performance that we've seen Joanne Wood go through isn't necessarily always her best. So this one, man, this is a show performance for both fighters right here. Aleksei Grasso has the hands to get it done. And Joanne Wood also, man, stays bouncy. She has the combos when she can land those 2-punch combos and has the strength to get it done, man. She's in there. She has great heart, a very good fighter in Joanne Wood. But at the same point, man, Aleksei Grasso is smooth, man, calm, patient, reads stuff well, looked a little bit undersized in her last performance against Macy Barber, but strength-wise, held her own, man, was pushing Barber up against the fence. And I'm a Macy Barber fan, too, so I was a little surprised on that one. I don't remember which one I picked, but Aleksei Grasso really earned a lot of fandom in her last fight. So I'm excited to see where the hand speed works, where she goes against Joanne Wood in this one. Was this closer to a coin toss for you, Derick, or you see a clear outlier right here?
I really like Aleksei Grasso in this fight, brother. I think Joanne Wood needs to get the fight to the clinch or potentially try to do a little bit of grappling or something to mitigate the striking of Aleksei Grasso. But Joanne Wood, she's 4-6 in her last 10 fights, brother. She lost 4 of those 6 fights via finish, too. So that's the scary part. And her last stoppage win came in 2018 against Kalindra Fadia. So I just think that, man, it's going to be tough and mentally for me to envision Joanne Wood outpointing Aleksei Grasso in this fight when Grasso is such a skillful, talented boxer. Because like I said, she's 2-0 in Grasso, moving up to 125. And at 3-3 at 115, at 115 pounds, it's not like she was losing to just anybody. The name she lost to was Tatiana Suarez, who arguably could be a champion in the division if she was able to stay healthy. Carla Esparza, who's about to fight for the belt, former champion herself, and Felice Herrig, who is an OG of the women's strawweight division. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. However, on the other side, for Aleksei Grasso, she also hasn't finished anybody since 2014, brother, before she was in the UFC. So both of these fighters need a finish, even though this is the women's division. It's not predicated on having finishes, but a finish would be nice. I just think that at the end of the day, Joanne Wood, where she's best at is when she can grab you up, knees to the face in that clinch, knees to the body, work the body, and keep you up close. But if Aleksei Grasso can keep her distance and fight at range, be a technical boxer, I just think it's going to be a long night for Joanne Wood. So is that the best path to victory for Joanne Wood? Would you agree? It's just keeping it close, clinching it up. What do you think?
Yeah, keeping it close, making it dirty, fighting in that dirty boxing range, hooks to the body, keep everything up inside, and don't let the technicians start working.
Yeah, once Aleksei Grasso starts getting comfortable, getting confident, going to be a long night. So I like Grasso here, and the over and under on this fight, AJ, let's take a look. It looks like we have 2.5 rounds, and to be honest with you, brother, I'm not really expecting a finish. Joanne Wood is a very tough fighter, and for her losses as of late, it's not like she's getting knocked out. Rear naked choke, armbar, decision, you know what I mean? Guillotine, like she's not getting knocked out like that. The last time she's been finished was, or I guess knocked out. It's a long time, brother. It's a real long time. She's really mainly being submitted. So I like Aleksei Grasso via decision right here. Just the more talented boxer. And that's really what it comes down to. Joanne Wood, she also, let's not forget, brother. I don't want to be rude in this assessment, but she is 35 years old. Aleksei Grasso is 25. You just got a difference in youth right here. So, yeah, that's what I like. Who do you got, brother?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I like Aleksei Grasso by decision. I think she's technical. She stays calm, and once she's very much a downhill fighter or a snowball fighter.
Yeah.
Once she gets going, she's very hard to stop. But if Joanne Wood can make this dirty, man, this can be an entertaining, possibly fight of the night right here.
Absolutely. This could be a fun one. But will it be more fun than the next matchup that we have right here, AJ? Matt Brown, the Immortal, versus Bryan Barberena. You have two dudes who are arguably the definition of blue collar, the definition of work hard, shut your mouth, get in there and scrap, the definition of a fighter's fighter. So Matt Brown, the Immortal. Let's not forget, my man, he retired after landing that elbow on Diego Sanchez back in 2017. He called it a career. He said, that's it. But then he said, I got the itch. I got more fight in me. And now he's 2-2 since retiring. And both of those fights that he's lost, though, AJ, he did get finished. At the prime ripe age of 41 years old, you don't want to be taking finishes like that, right? But we cannot forget the history of what Matt Brown has done. However, the man he's fighting is 32 years old. He has lost to some of the best fighters in the welterweight division, and he's just a tough dude all around, 7-6 in the UFC. But, brother, if I had to tell you that he has lost to names such as Colby Covington, Leon Edwards, Vicente Luque, Randy Brown, would you be like, okay, well, I didn't expect that, because who the hell is this Bryan Barberena guy? You know what I'm saying? He's fought the top tier competition, man. He's only been finished 3 times in his career, brother. The dude has like 25 fights. So against a Matt Brown right here, even though Matt Brown has been asking for this fight, literally, he was like, this is the fight that I want. Barberena is a tough dude. I want to do it in Columbus, all that good stuff. Do you think Matt Brown is a little outmatched here? 41 years old, at the tail end of his career. What are we thinking here? Is this even? Is this one-way traffic? I mean, when we look at the odds, and I think that the odds are actually incorrect when I have this graphic up here, because the odds right now appear to be -110 a pop, a pick'em fight for this fight. So disregard the odds on this one, folks. What do you think, AJ?
Yeah, I thought this was going to be a pick'em as well. And to be honest with you, Derick, I I've known about Bryan Barberena for quite a while. I made
yeah.
him a sleeper before, but he is very much a sleeper. Like, not many people know about Bam Bam Barberena right here, man. But he had, like you said, has fought the top tier of the top tier when they were still growing, you know. So he's kind of fallen a little bit into that shade. Not many people know about him. Obviously, like, I think in the most casual mind, Matt Brown, the Immortal, you know, he comes with the allure. Bryan Barberena has a shot here, man. He is a dog amongst dogs. This dude can scrap, and he's a lot of fun, man. Bam Bam for a reason. He comes in, he swings hard, he swings for the fences. He's looking to get, you know, take your head off, put it in the stands. But he's also very talented on the ground, man. He has a good ground game, a good attack game. I wouldn't say Matt Brown is outskilled right here. But I think in a lot of people's minds, they do think that Matt Brown has more advantages. Bryan Barberena is a savage, man. We cannot discount that. This to me was very much a pick'em fight, and the odds have skewed. So I'm feeling a little jaded about that because I looked at the odds yesterday, so I had to do one of these, man. This is one of those fights where I was going, battling back and forth. Which way do I go? I went with the odds, but yeah, this could go either way, man. This is going to be a fun fight. Bryan Barberena, very much an OG fighter. Is this one to you, Derick, a nostalgia fight, the fight that should have happened a long time ago, just hasn't happened yet? Or is this a fight where both fighters need this one to save their jobs? What do you think?
Well, to save their jobs is kind of tough, right? Because Matt Brown is kind of on that legacy contract. He's on that you're an OG. I mean, look at how many shots they gave Diego Sanchez before he finally got out of there, right? So let's just take a look, man, because that's the best way we can make this assessment. So when we take a look at the Tapology for Bryan Barberena, he won against Darian Weeks in his last fight, lost against Jason Witt. You know, he's kind of been up and down, right? When I say the people he's lost to, Leon Edwards, Luque, Randy Brown, right? You know what I mean? He's got a win over Jake Ellenberger, win over Anthony Ivy. When we look for Matt Brown, it appears that, let's see. He's gone through some rough streaks, brother. You know what I mean? He's lost 3 in a row here. Got a win against Sanchez Saunders. Lost against Condit. That was a tough one. Baeza got the win where he knocked out Diego Lima. I don't think that they're fighting for their jobs here. I think more, if anything, they're fighting to stay relevant here. They're fighting to, why are you going to be on the main card of this, whatever card that you have, or whatever event that you have, why are you going to be on the main card if you're not able to produce? I think that they made this matchup specifically right here because Barberena is a dude who, he's only been finished, like I said, twice in terms of knockouts, 3 times in his total career, in his 25-fight career. For Matt Brown, this dude's been doing it forever. This is going to be a meat and potatoes, rock'em sock'em robots type fight, fight of the night type fight. And with that being said, I don't really have much more to say about this except, listen, man, I like Bryan Barberena in this fight. Even though Matt Brown is a tough competitor, he's an OG. I just think Bryan Barberena, even though he has a reach disadvantage, will be able to take over. Comes round 2 and 3. Matt Brown is a little chinny, brother. He got knocked out in his last 2 fights. That's something we have to take into consideration. Bryan Barberena has 10 knockouts on his 16 wins right there. So I think someone falls in this fight. Basically, that's my assessment of it. But I like Bryan Barberena, 3rd round TKO. I am taking the over because the over in this fight appears to be 2.5 rounds. So maybe I don't take the over. Maybe I take the under. 3rd round TKO, early 3rd round. That's what I'm going. What do you think, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one can go any way, man. Bam Bam Barberena is one of my favorite underrated fighters, but Matt Brown is also one of my favorite fighters, a little less underrated. To me, this is one of those fights that not a nostalgia fight in the fact that I think they should have been fighting a long time ago, but a nostalgia fact that we get 2 older guys that might make a fight of the night. Yeah. This one has a dog fight potential for sure. I'm going Matt Brown. I'm going by decision. I don't as chinny as Matt Brown has been, I think he can avoid the knockouts. I don't think he'll knock out Bryan Barberena. So that's why I'm going decision for this one. Yeah. Taking the over, Matt Brown by decision.
I got you, brother. I think I'm thinking law of averages here because UFC London, almost every hometown fighter got the dub. Can't happen every time, right? I mean, this is the fight game, and Matt Brown at his hometown, even though I do think that he will get a little more moral support, a little more energy, just going to be tough to finish a Bryan Barberena, who was as game as they come. But next up, AJ, this is high implications, heavy implications. Number 2 ranked Askar Askarov versus number 6 ranked Kai Kara-France. Let us not forget, AJ, Askar Askarov would have been fighting for a title had he not missed weight in his last fight. So he basically did something to Joseph Benavidez that we've seen very few people do. The only other person who is really ragdoll Joseph Benavidez in a dangerous way like that is the current champion, Deiveson Figueiredo, Deuce de Guerra. So when it comes down to it, man, Askarov is 3-0-1 in the UFC, but he basically finished every fight prior to entering the big show, right? 11 finishes in his 14 wins. Kai Kara-France, on the other hand, this man is on a hot streak. 2 knockouts in a row, kind of saving his nickname, Don't Blink, because he's been a decision machine besides that. But he has a ton of experience, man. The big thing to me is he's been finished 5 times in his 9 losses, brother. So when he loses, he goes out with a bang. It's important to note that. However, you have a grappler who has some crispy striking, but prefers to keep the ground game, smother you, and ride you out for 3 rounds versus Kai Kara-France, who is the definition of explosive. To me, he's a little ball of steel, you know what I mean? Where he's just kind of bouncing around, nonstop movement. Let's look at the fight against Rogerio Bontorin, man, where he was in a rough spot until he got the dub, right? You know what I mean? So Askar Askarov. Out of sight, out of mind, AJ. I think that's the story here. Even though he's a minus 310 favorite, I think that he should be a minus 600 favorite in this fight, because if he gets Kai Kara-France on the ground, I have a hard time seeing Kai Kara-France getting back up to be able to knock out Askarov. You have a southpaw versus an orthodox fighter, even though Askarov, I mean, he's listed as orthodox. I think he can go either way. When it comes to output, more output for Kai Kara-France, more takedowns for Askarov, brother. Grappler versus striker, classic matchup, but Askarov got some hands too. So what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Very much, Askarov has the ground game advantage. Kara-France, on paper, has a striking advantage, but Askarov has some hands, man. Very confident, calm, calculated, cool and composed, but hits very hard, knows when to hit, knows timing, can strike off the back foot, can wrestle. Askarov has a lot, and I think that the only reason he isn't a massive favorite right here is just because he hasn't performed in quite a while. Everybody remembers the Garbrandt knockout, man. It's so fresh in everyone's memory that everyone thinks, Don't Blink is the real deal. And as much as he is, Askarov is also the real deal. Excuse me. Askarov, man, he's one of those fighters, another one that is kind of flown under the radar because of lack of performance. But if this dude comes out and fights the way he has been, bro, it is going to be fireworks, man. Especially with a fighter that is willing to bring the pressure, bring the pace, bring the intensity that Kara-France is going to. This is going to be fireworks, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And what's nice about this is we get to see how Askarov can finally perform. A lot of people, they've gone out of his memory, but his timing is nice, calm, has the ground game, has the striking, has all the intangibles to be champ. Just like you said, struggled with the weight. So if we come in, we see a top-notch performing, race car of Askarov against an absolute blitz style like Kara-France, man. This one's going to be a lot of fun. It could go early. It could go all the way into the late rounds if Askarov has his way. I don't know, man. This one, as much of a fan as I am City Kickboxing, it's hard to bet against Askarov.
It is very, very difficult to bet against Askar Askarov in this fight, man. I honestly think he should have been fighting for a championship like a long time ago. And I think that the reason why the reason why Deiveson Figueiredo got the rematch versus Brandon Figueiredo, where he won the title back and all that stuff, was one, because Pantoja was hurt and couldn't fight. And 2 is because Askar Askarov missed weight against Joseph Benavidez. So it's like, you got the win, but you missed weight. So it's like you kind of screwed yourself over in that one. So by default, Figueiredo gets the fight. And then, breaking news, if you don't know already, folks, it's reported that they're doing the 4th fight, Figueiredo versus Moreno again. So it's like, listen, at that, you got to call it at the end of that. We can't do 5 fights, right? 4 fights. And then Askar Askarov, you're Alexandre Pantoja, if Kai Kara-France gets a win over Askarov, maybe one of these guys are going to be next up in line. So this could be a potential title eliminator fight on this hand. So I think Kai Kara-France is going to be game. I do think at plus 250, I could see throwing a little bit of money on Kai Kara-France and seeing an upset in this fight. But what we're doing is we're just looking at the past performances of Askarov and hoping that he's going to have that same performance. Because when he fought Joseph Benavidez, that was in March 6th of 2021. So it's been over a calendar year since we've seen the man fight recently. And he fought, twice in 2020, once in 2021, once in 2019, once in 2018, once in 2017. You know what I mean? Like, he hasn't been the most active, but that also means there aren't a lot of miles on Askarov. So hopefully we see a fun matchup. But when it comes down to it, my man, listen, I like Askar Askarov. I just find it hard to bet against the man. You said it earlier. Minus 310 is a little chalky, so we might be having to take the over and under or something, go on a prop, go on a decision or something like that. But at the end of the day, brother, the over and under for this fight appears to be 2.5 rounds. You going over or you going under on this one? Excuse me.
I honestly think Car France has a big chance to win this fight here if he can get it done early.
Yeah.
I personally am going Askarov. I'm going the distance. I'm taking the over. But if this ends early, we can see a Car France win right here. But like I said, I'm going a little chalky, taking the over, taking Askarov. Just how I think it's going to get done. He's going to utilize that ground game, man.
Absolutely. And I think Askarov is the perfect fighter to deflate the hype of any fighter by just smothering them on the ground and not letting them showcase their skills, because that's all it takes is one trip, one takedown, and you're there for the rest of the match. So, I mean, listen, 3 rounds to a fight. Every round starts on the feet. We'll see what happens, but should be a fun one either way. Now, AJ, listen, brother. When's the last time you've heard of Ilir Latifi fighting, man? It's been a solid little minute, but he's fighting a dude who, at this point, is one of the more active heavyweights in the roster, which is Aleksei Oleinik, which is hard to believe because the man is 44 years old and he just fights every other month, it feels like it. However, the man has lost 3 in a row. He's been finished in 2 of those 3 losses, which is, it's kind of tough to see. But Ilir Latifi, my man, he's coming off a split decision win against Tanner Boser. Lost a unanimous decision win to Derek Lewis. So, brother, I feel like you should get points just for saying I took Lewis to a decision. You feel me? I didn't get knocked out by the man. But Ilir Latifi has one X factor where I think there's a lot of hype. A lot of people are going to be harping on this. I don't know how much this really matters, but tell me what you think about this caveat. Ilir Latifi trains at All Stars Training Center. That is the same gym that Khamzat Chimaev trains out of, over there with Darren Till. They're best buds now. So there is this theory, man, because Ilir Latifi is a hell of a wrestler himself, but Chimaev, I mean, that's what all he's known for, is the wrestling, the grappling, all that good stuff. So when you have the young gun who's coming up in here who's saying, like, listen, I'm the dude now. Chimaev, I'm the guy. I'm wrestling everybody. Even though, I mean, you're going to wrestle Latifi. This dude's a heavyweight. You ain't wrestling this dude. Come on, stop it. But the point that I'm making here is that don't you think that's going to up his game a little bit? You know what I mean? You got this young hot gun. All right, brother, let's see what you got. I'm the top dog. Don't forget, I am the top dog here. So I think that's going to factor in just a little bit, but I was interested about your take on that. Is this hype or is this something to keep an eye on?
I think it's something to keep an eye on, because even if Ilir Latifi is still getting the best of Chimaev because of the weight discrepancy, it's good to feed off that kind of energy. And I think Darren Till was talking about this, where he's going in. It's good to see a young, hungry dog come in, think the best of himself, have ultimate confidence, and go into every aspect of the fight game with that. I think it reinvigorates the old dogs, man. It gets you thinking, like, oh shit, that's how I used to be when I was killing it. I've struggled, I've got away from that, but now I have kind of that energy kind of coming back in. I think it's something to look into, man. There might be a little something to that you're thinking right there, Derek. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but I like where your head's at with that one, because it really does. When you're in the room with somebody like that, it's palpable. There's a feeling to it that motivates you to be a little bit better. That's something to watch for sure.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. However, wrestling heavy styles are not always the most productive when it comes to fighting a dude who will Ezekiel choke you at any given time in Aleksei Oleinik, a dude who every time I see his record, it blows my mind. 59-16-1. 8 knockouts, not anything crazy for the amount of wins, but brother, you got 46 submission wins. Obviously, you're doing something right. How many by Ezekiel choke? I don't know. Too many to count. But listen, when it comes down to it, my man, Ilir Latifi got a puncher's chance to win this fight. Aleksei Oleinik has a grappler's submission chance to win this fight. But I think that unless Oleinik gets it done early, man, it's just going to be tough to stop the pressure of an Ilir Latifi. I think that at number 22, the man arguably could be a top 15 fighter, given how shallow the heavyweight division is in the top 15. But at the end of the day on this one, my man, minus 170 for Ilir Latifi. What does Aleksei Oleinik need to do to keep this fight competitive? Because when he lost his last fight, not to Spivak, but to Chris Daukaus, if we remember, Chris Daukaus just didn't give Aleksei Oleinik a chance to get going. Sprawled on the takedown and just punched him up until they finished the fight, right? And Aleksei Oleinik even kind of looked at the ref like, hey, bro, can you hurry up and finish this? I'm getting my face smashed in right now, bro. Like, come on, give me something. So is the will to really grit a win out there right now for a 44-year-old Aleksei Oleinik? Is he competing for the sake of competing? Is he trying to get right off of this 3-fight losing streak? Let's not forget, Ilir Latifi, he got a 3-fight losing streak of his own before getting that last one against Tanner Boser. So I think both these dudes need a win bad at the end of the day, but Aleksei Oleinik is more on the if he loses, is he keeping the legacy? Is he sticking around for the legacy? Or are we saying, bro, you're 44 years old. It's time to go to Eagle FC if you want to keep fighting. What are you thinking?
Yeah, there's a lot more on the line to lose for Oleinik, but I think that might motivate the older man, bro. Sure. That's one of those things where you're coming in, and on paper, Latifi has the perfect style for Oleinik to beat. He comes in wrestling, you get things to the ground, you end it early when it's dry, in, out, on your way. But at the same point, man, Oleinik has this weird style where if you've ever fought anybody with a hard head and all they do is just like duck and you punch him in the forehead, it's a pain in the ass because this dude will eat. He will literally eat any and all shots you throw, even uppercuts. He'll duck on some uppercuts and headbutt those. It's absolutely wild. The fact that he doesn't get knocked out. It's his jaw is impeccable. His whole cranium is made out of adamantium, bro. This dude is insane, especially for the age he is. Yeah. So if Ilir Latifi, though, can do the same thing as Daukaus did, where he actually put him up, push him up against, be the bully, hit him up with some hands, hit him up with some knees, get the ref to step in, I think that's the best way to fight Oleinik because this dude's not going to sleep. He's not going to get tapped. You're just going to keep on battering your own hands on this dude's skull. You got to get the referee to step in there and say, all right, like this is a one-sided event, especially early on. Although Oleinik, he can get it done, or excuse me, Latifi can get it done in the later rounds. That can, wait more for the referee to happen. But Oleinik can snatch something up quick, man. So you got to stay away from that quick blitz.
No, I agree with you, man. So Ilir Latifi, he is 2-3 in his last 5. Hasn't finished a fight since 2018 when he finished Ovin St. Preux. And listen, he's a great wrestler, trains at All-Stars, all that good stuff. Oleinik lost 3 in a row, lost 5 of his last 6 via stoppage, and his last finish win came in 2020 against Mo Green. I think that is enough statistics to talk about this matchup. I like Ilir Latifi, brother. I'm going youth, even though, Latifi's 38 years old, but I'm going a little bit of youth pick with this. I just think Aleksei Oleinik, man, it's like, the game plan. Come in, he wants to grab you up. If he can't choke you in the first round, it's hard for him. He's never really gotten his striking together like that. It's never been super technical. But the big thing that I cannot just forget to mention, he does have a 7-inch reach advantage on Latifi. I just think Latifi is such a good wrestler, that's not going to matter too much. If Aleksei Oleinik was a little bit of a better striker, then I would really be thinking like, okay, Aleksei could do it on the feet, but I have a hard time thinking he's going to knock out Latifi, who has been knocked out 4 times, but he's never been submitted, man. So that's the big story. I like Latifi. Over and under on this fight is 1.5 rounds, brother. So, that's the big question. I think they're thinking Aleksei Oleinik comes in, submits the man, or Latifi just ground and pounds him, gets a flurry strike, and they end it quick. I'm actually in a little bit of agreement here, brother. I'm going to take the under on this one. I like the under. I just think that 2 old dogs in the heavyweight division, you're not going to a decision. What are we talking about? What do you think, brother?
Yeah, I'm with you too. I have it as a round 2 TKO or submission for Oleinik. I'm also taking the under though. I think it's going to happen early. I think it's going to happen before that 7.5 minute mark. I'm rolling with Oleinik. I think he's going to snatch something up quick. We're going to see Ilir Latifi come in hot, come in pressure, and I think Oleinik will use that against him. But Latifi can get it done. So, but like I said, Oleinik submission early round 2. That's what I'm rocking with.
Folks, if you are a plus money type of bettor, if you're a plus money wagerer, I will note that it probably would not be a bad idea to throw a little bit of money on Aleksei Oleinik by TKO, submission, or DQ, which is one of the main prop bets that they often throw out there. The reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, man, Oleinik could snatch up anything at any given moment, okay? So let's move on to the last bout of the night, and here we go. Marc Diakiese versus Vyacheslav Borshchev. AJ, man, there was supposed to be David Onama fighting somebody, but instead we get Diakiese versus Borshchev. And the reason why this is important is because Borshchev, coming off of a nasty liver shot KO in his last fight, somehow, someway gets propped up to the main card. The man's stock is rising through the roof, but I do kind of have to know, brother, I'm feeling a little bit of a way because even though he's a young, hot fighter coming off the Dana White Contender Series, he beat Dakota Bush in what was a kind of touch and go first round. It was going back and forth. You get the Bone Crusher next, man. They're not giving this dude an easy matchup. This is Marc Diakiese, who is 5-5 in the UFC, and even though, listen, he's lost to the Rafael Alves, the Rafael Fizieves, the Nasrat Haqparast, he does have a win over Joe Duffy and a win over Lando Venata, groovy Lando Venata, brother. So when you have that, he's game. He's ready to scrap. Why do you think Borshchev is getting the push so early? Is it because he's a fun fighter? Is it because he's a game fighter willing to fight anyone, anywhere, anyhow? Or is it just because they have their own agenda and they say, fuck it, let's get him on the main card? What do you think?
I think this is one of the ones where Borshchev answered the call. He picked up the phone when nobody else would. They had a late fight replacement. Slava Claus came in and said, fuck it, I'm fighting. Which, scratching the back of Uncle Dana. Now the real question for me is that 190, that minus 190 for Borshchev. Is that being tainted from his last performance? Because I agree with you. It was very much touch and go. Dakota Bush was winning that fight. until he ate one hell of a shovel punch right to that liver. So, I mean, although at the same point, Borshchev has a good ground game attack. He's very technical on the ground. He's coming out of, I forget where he's training, if it's Alpha Male or if it's one of the big name teams. But Diakiese had his ground game exposed in that both in the Khizriev fight as well as the Alves fight. A little more in the Khizriev fight. We think of Khizriev as a striker, but he was controlling that entire ground game against Diakiese. Where the Alves fight, he kind of got caught. He got caught in a guillotine. It happened, so can't really discredit him too much for that one. But Diakiese is very flashy on the feet, very powerful. The striking for between these two, very close. I just think Borshchev has a little bit better ground game than Diakiese. What do you think?
I mean, listen, when it comes down to it, Borshchev does train at Team Alpha Male, so that is a big camp right there. But yeah, for Marc Diakiese, I just think that he's had a lot of hype on him. They had a lot of push. They try to push this dude as being the next big thing, and you have some touch and go performances, a lot of decisions, right? I mean, lose a decision to Haqparast, you win a decision against Duffy, decision against Venata, lose a decision against Khizriev, and then get submitted. But what does it mean, AJ, that he went to a decision with a Rafael Khizriev, who's one of the best strikers in the lightweight division? You got to give him some credit right there, right?
Well, the fact that Khizriev's easiest road to game plan was take him down and control him, which we don't see Khizriev do, speaks levels to how dangerous on the feet Marc Diakiese is, man. Like big, huge levels, because Khizriev is down to strike with anybody. Khizriev was down to strike with RDA. Doesn't matter who it is. He's down to stand up and bang. Yeah. Except for Diakiese, he said, fuck it, I'm shooting those hips.
Yeah. So I do agree with you, man. Diakiese is a dangerous striker, and we might see Borshchev say, I am a mixed martial artist. Let's show you some of my grappling. He doesn't have a submission win under his belt, but if I remember correctly, man, he has hunted for some ground game work, some submissions against a bunch of fighters. He just hasn't landed the submission. And if anything, he gets you to the ground and then he TKOs you on the ground with punches. Because if we look at his last 5 fights, knocks out Dakota Bush. So basically knockout round 1, knockout round 2, knockout round 2, knockout round 1, and then his last loss was to Will Starks. So it was a split decision loss. So I think for Slava Claus, man, he can get the job done here, but I do think this is going to be a very, very tough test. And I honestly think Diakiese should be the favorite. Same thing with you. I see the minus 190 and I say, okay, I mean, you're fighting a veteran, brother. You're fighting a real deal veteran. Dakota Bush was one of those, okay, ease into the UFC, but now, here we go. You took the step up in competition. Let's see if you can get the job done. If he doesn't, then you kind of ruin the hot track of a Borshchev. However, I mean, so listen, this is the other thing to take into consideration. Borshchev is older than Marc Diakiese, brother. So now, it's now or never for Borshchev. He has to get these wins in now. For Marc Diakiese, you're 5-5, 14-5 in your MMA career, and you're under 30 still. You still not even in your prime yet. Come on, man. So Bone Crusher, he needs a get-back win. I think he's a plus 155 underdog because he's lost his last 2 fights. He's lost 3 of his last 5 fights. But listen, man, I don't know. We need to finish. So let me just rattle off a couple of stats, brother. Bone Crusher has not finished a fight since 2017. So, I mean, that nickname is kind of not really too apt right now. Either way, he has been guillotined twice in his last 5 losses. So look out for that for Vyacheslav Borshchev. And for Borshchev, the big question mark for me is that he's only seen the 3rd round twice in his career. Marc Diakiese has squeaked out a bunch of decisions. Can he take him to the later rounds, get him tired, use his UFC experience, veteran experience, and get him out of there? I don't know. Yet to be seen. AJ, who are you rolling with on this one for the last fight on the main card that we're picking for?
Last fight on the main card, man. I'm going Borshchev. I'm going Borshchev KO round 2. I think it's going to be a closer fight. In the first one, we're going to see some nice striking out of Diakiese, but then the second round is going to come. We're going to see Borshchev take a more calculated approach, get either the takedowns, and then start working for a TKO, KO, one of those. I think it's going to end early. What was the over-under?
2.5 rounds, brother.
Ooh, I'm going with the under. I'm going with the under. I'm going about it's a second round KO. Either way, it's going to be a very fun fight. But I think the striking right here is going to speak levels to how good these guys actually are. But then we're going to see Borshchev run away with the ground game at the end. That's what I'm rolling with. Slava Claus, KO round 2. Hopefully he does another cheesy song at the end or something. We'll see. But I'm going Slava KO round 2. What about you, Derick?
You know what? As much as I like Diakiese was literally one of my favorite fighters when I started watching the UFC, really heavy like that, man. I'm like, this dude's an OG. You gotta love it, man. He comes in here, Bone Crusher, got the red mohawk, looking like Yondu off of Avengers and all that, right? But I do think Borshchev is going to play a smart game plan, take him to the ground, and look for the ground and pound finish. I mean, if you're a better mixed martial artist or you have better tools, even though you're younger in your career, why not use them? You're a little bit older. You're in your frame. You're in that prime right there. He does have a reach disadvantage of 4 inches, so it's probably going to be a good thing getting the fight to the ground. But I also think he has some great kicks. He has the whole 9, man. It should be a fun fight. I like Borshchev. I'm taking the under 2. I like the ground and pound finish, round 2 or so. But I'm not going to lie to you, AJ. I would not be surprised to see Marc Diakiese pull the upset win here and then give everybody the I told you so. You shouldn't have picked the young new toy over the old grizzled vet. So those are your main card picks for UFC Columbus, folks. All 6 of them. We basically hit all of the prelims. And at this point, we only have one thing left to do, and that is to hit the outro, talk about it a little bit, folks. So feature sleepers. We gave you a prelim pour-over. We hit on all of the main card. Once again, AJ's at 70% accuracy for his picks on the year. I'm at about like 67 or something like that. It's going to definitely come down to this week to see. We have some picks against the grain. We have some contrasting picks here, so there will be a new victor most likely, or not a new victor, but there will be a more definitive victor come, Monday when we do the post show. So folks, if you enjoy the show, drop a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. You already know what time it is. We are dropping this a little bit earlier. I should say recording this one a little bit earlier. Normally we record on Thursdays. Today we're recording on a Wednesday due to, life obligations, folks. So once again, whether we got life obligations, whether we got things to do, we always make time for the show because we have to give the people what they want. AJ, are you with me, brother? What are you thinking?
The grind never stops,
Yeah.
Derick, man. No matter what, folks are pumping out 2 shows a week, a whole bunch of clips. Derick has said it best. Share it with your friends. Make sure you rate us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, doesn't matter. We're global over here. So make sure you're getting those ratings in. Hit us in the comments, man. Let us know. What do you think about these matchups we're breaking down, as well as what bets you're going with. Share with your friends. Even if you know somebody, you're passing on the street, you hear somebody chirping up a little bit about a little MMA, let them know where they can go get the best odds, best percentage scores out here, the best MMA show all around. Let them know here, Bloody Water Podcast. You can catch us at bloodywaterpodcast.com. The Hub. Go check out YouTube. Hit us with the algorithm, comments. You know it. You know how it goes, folks. If you're rocking with us this long, we love it. We appreciate you all. Thank you so much, man. It's going to be a fun one, Derick.
Absolutely. And go get your merch, folks. Use code BWP10 for 10% off all merch at checkout. Get your hoodie, get your t-shirt. Summertime is rolling around quick, folks. So tank tops, t-shirts, the whole 9, bloodywaterpodcast.com/merch. Just head over to the merch tab. You know what time it is. So, folks, that will be it for this week. Until next time, folks. Peace.